Hello and welcome back to our conversations about building depth in business. These are entrepreneurial dialogues about things that'll help you go in a perhaps different direction than the standard business conversation. I'm Brandon Farr, and today we're talking about money. This will be, I think, the third conversation on the topic of money. We've gone through how to decide whether you're going to build or bill hourly versus contract, the pros and cons of each, when to do hybrid, whether this good portion of the contract work is, a good portion of the project is done under contract, with the extensions being hourly, and how to discern that for yourself. And we're just going to keep going because money matters. I say that money matters. I also want to acknowledge that money isn't everything, and in business there's this, it is the potential energy that keeps the wheels turning, and it's necessary. But I know that I was consumed by it when I was starting my journey in business, and almost my sole goal was to accumulate more wealth, and almost with blinders on. I didn't realize that there's that making money is good and being fixated and consumed by it isn't. So all those things in tension. And while I was pondering this episode, in these conversations, some things that came up. Money matters to you, but it also matters to others. And it's not even on a sticky note here for me, but I want us to be attentive as we're going through our process of work. What you do Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, the work, the projects, that how we treat others with our finances really matters. And when I was young in my trades life, I was fortunate to have a good series of role models. They were tradesmen, and they helped me understand that how I treat other people with money is going to significantly impact my business. And I had some trades where they said, hey, once the guy's done work, pay him. It was essentially I can tell you the whole story, but just to get to the point, it's when people come to work for you, whether they're a subcontractor or employee, pay them promptly. I see all kinds of conditions. I know that I'm subject to these where, sometimes I don't get paid for 3 months after I've done the work, which means as a contracting company, we're a bank. That's hard for businesses if you don't have a buffer. So I'm thinking about all the sub trades that we employ, and it's like it's not their job to float my project. And part of respecting them as people is prompt payment. That doesn't mean prompt payment at the expense of contract integrity. It just means once they're done, pay them, move on. And I know that I've taken the stance to act as a buffer. So sometimes I don't get paid for weeks or months after the project, and everybody else has been paid. All my employees, all my subcontractors, all my material suppliers. And where that's really served me is when I need help, people come. And I think that's the most, perhaps an overlooked part of the reciprocity in how we do finances with other people. It's interesting. Money is not where we get stuck. It's the inability to do the work is where we get stuck. And because we get paid when we're finished. And when people know that you communicate clearly, there's no games, and when they're finished, they get paid, and then you phone them up and say, hey, listen, I got something that came up on short notice. Can you fit me in somewhere? I've often found some flexibility in, if they can help me, they do. And I have relationships that have grown over years because there's that trust. And the other interesting part as I'm talking about this, I realize that I don't often shop for quotes, which is also part of the byproduct of having these trust relationships. Is I'll phone up my preferred drywaller, my preferred electrician, my preferred plumber, my preferred finish carpenter, and say, hey, I trust you to give me a fair price. Just let me know what it's going to cost and put me in a schedule. Because the time is the factor that I care more about than plus or minus $250, on quotes. Like I don't want to disrespect them with having to come out and quote and waste their time. And I also know that they're not going to gouge me. Because that's not how this relationship works, because if they take advantage of me, they're not going to get this free flowing, easy trust relationship. Just the dynamics are at play where I don't have to go hunt for multiple bidders because I don't want to have to manage that personally. And I want to work with people that I trust because I want to understand the time, the chronology. especially when I have services that I'm coordinating inside my contracts. I want my key people that I'm used to working with so that the timing of things goes according to how I would intend them to go. Again, money's a part of that, and if I didn't respect them with finances, I wouldn't have the opportunity to draw on them, and then I'd be forced to go to a bunch of strangers who I don't know the quality of the work. I don't know how they talk in front of my clients. I don't know how they clean up after themselves, all these things. And that money piece is a thread through. So a couple of just conversation points here, in no particular order. Phased payments or draws. I've seen people that do a 50% upfront or 40% upfront, materials and so on. Again, most of my contracts, I'm making a lot of money, and a lot of the money, the portion of the quote, is based on labor. So I can't do a material draw up front, has been my experience, and I've never found a need to. Most of the time when I'm working with repeat clients, with this reoccurring and ideally reoccurring necessary urgent work, I know the mechanics of the payment structure. I might have to do the project. It takes 3 weeks, submit my final invoice, and then wait 6 weeks for the check to process. So I'm carrying costs for a couple of months, but I know I'm getting paid. I work with these people for years, or these businesses for years, and so I don't have any concern. But from time to time, I need to make a draw. I don't want to float $100,000 for 2 months if I don't have to. Can I? Fine. Do I want to? No. It's just, and part of de-risking our contracts is getting paid in installments. So one of the ways that I've got around that is I itemize my quotes, and I'm actually going to do a live quote in one of these conversations, and we'll do it on the whiteboard here and walk through it, because my quotes are a story that communicate understanding. They communicate clarity of project scope and value to the client, and I think we've done a good job at doing that. And I want to share that with you. So I also itemize my quote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever the details are. That also allows me to make a progress draw, because every project has a story, beginning, middle, and end. And getting ready, demolition, construction, finishing, cleanup, whatever the chronology of your story is, there's a beginning, middle, and end. And if you get your project story sorted out, the things that are at the beginning are typically always at the beginning. And so those are items 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, when I'm done those, I can give a green check mark to those items on the scope and send in an invoice for items 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I have items 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 left to do for my final invoice. And clients it's been actually a really good experience for me. And clients understand what I'm billing. They understand where the chronology of the project is. If it's 40% done, I get a 40% draw. And it's less about, are you done the baseboards yet, and have you started the electrical or paint and drywall, whatever the detail is. I'm actually billing according to what I've listed. What I've taken responsibility to clarify what I've listed as items 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm able to make a draw on that. We'll break that down into more detail, but depending upon length of project, it's not. I try to bill in 2-week installments if I have the capacity. If I have a 3-week project in totality, I'll just bill it at the end. But if I got a multi-week project, I'll try to bill in 2 weeks and then 4 weeks, because that's a chronology that most professional clients can work with. Any more than that, you need to realize they're processing paperwork, and there's typically an approval process they have to go through for every payment that they send into the system. And oftentimes, to be fair, these payment processes take place the last Friday of the month for these businesses. So you could send in an invoice every week, and the 4th week, all 4 invoices will get processed because it's the last Friday of the month that they all. So understanding your client pacing is a big part of seeing what's realistic about for your draw invoices. If I don't know the client, this is how we're. Okay, so we're going to jump in here to vetting clients. And so if I don't know the client, I will try to vet the client, and I will vet them with money. And the reason I want to do that is because, again, one of the very first conversations we had was around clients' relationship with money. And sometimes people are weird. And that's okay. They're allowed to be weird. I just don't want them to be weird with the money that I've earned after I've done the work. So I don't want to come across like I'm being provocative in this, and I'm definitely not trying to manipulate my client. I'm trying to establish a trust relationship, and you can trust me, but the question I need to answer is, can I trust you? And money is a really interesting way to get to the heart of the matter, to see how somebody behaves. And a great way to do this is with a very small amount of money. If a project costs $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, I'm gonna say that's a bigger sum of money. But $150 up front is still money. So I will often vet my clients with a couple of things. I will, if I don't know you, I'm going to say, hey, we have a quoting fee of $300 or whatever I'll say. And if we get the contract, you get that back. I don't need to like nickel and dime my clients, but I do need to get to know them. And if they're just kicking tires, like we talked about, the client profile in terms of timing, because it might be necessary but not urgent for them. Well, my time's worth $300. If I'm going to get in my truck, drive out to see you, think about it, talk to you about it, go get some pricing, so there needs to be a respect. I need to be respected in this professional relationship in order to have that trust grow. And if somebody's not willing to go, oh yeah, you know, it is a big deal for you to come, and I'm thankful that you're willing to come offer your insights, and I appreciate you being flexible to meet me after hours. If there's hesitation right out of the gate, that's a yellow or even a red flag for me. And that's if I'm thinking if it's a bigger project, you know, because it's just a small fee. You know, if you want to renovate your whole bathroom and you're stumbling over $150 or $300 out of the gate, you're probably going to stumble over the $15,000 or $20,000 at the end of because a kitchen faucet or a bathroom faucet can run a couple $100. And so I want to work out those details to see where my client's threshold is and their relationship with money at the beginning, rather than having been done all the work and then find out that, hey, listen, they're tripping over these dollar bills, and I've already spent the money to install the thing, and I've paid my trades, and I'm essentially left hanging here. Anyways, because if people respond with a sense of reciprocity and respect, like they respect back and go, hey, listen, no problem. They might go, well, the other guys didn't charge. I'm like, I totally get that. It's just that, hey, listen, we got a lot going on, and I got to leave some other things in order to come see you. And there's just a cost for us to do this. You know, by the time I drive there, put my time in, I want to respect you with my best effort and make sure that I get you the quote that you need on time and not keep pushing you off. And I can't pull that time out of nowhere. So we charge for that. And again, just to make sure you know we're on the same page, I would say to the client, if we are successful in our client or in our bid, then I'll credit that $300 back. You'll get that right off the invoice, so you don't need to worry about wasting money. If they can handle that, I don't mind them asking questions about it. But if they can't wrap their head around that, or they're reluctant, then great. Hey, all the best. Find another person that's suited to do this, and good luck. If I have this is another thing that we did last year, and 2 years ago now. Golly, time is flying. If we have a smaller fee, like we do some inspections, and those inspections are typically in the $1,000 to $1,500 range. I get paid up front. I get paid before I go. And one of the things that we've done that's really worked for us, you need to understand when you do you need to understand your business and the time and energy invested in getting things through your business process. Every decision, every piece of paperwork, every email, every time you go to site, these are all this is all handoffs, or like I'm saying, passing the ball down the field to the successful project, and a lot of that time you don't get paid for typically, and I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to minimize the amount of handoffs and transitions inside of my business, and I wanted to shrink that time. I wanted to be lean in how we approached client interactions, especially right out of the gate, and especially with inspections, which are a standard thing for us. So we can kind of go, hey, we always do this, and kind of like square foot pricing or whatever, just put it in a little box and go, this is our flat fee and this is what we charge, and it includes these things. And we needed to optimize and streamline that. So I employed things like DocuSign. I think we've moved away from DocuSign presently, but we can email contracts out, get our electronic signatures in place. Not that DocuSign was bad. I just found that there was extra fees associated with their services, and nothing we were doing with required that required that much formality because, anyways, it's still there. It's present. We use it from time to time, but just not for the inspections, which are just essentially saying, hey, do you agree to do these things, this inspection based on this fee? And then once they pay the upfront invoice, we're clear on what we're doing. We're clear on what our fees are. Once they pay us, then we schedule them. You don't pay me, I don't schedule. When's our inspection? Tell you what, as soon as we receive payment, we'll hook up scheduling and we'll get you sorted in as soon as we can. We're typically 10 days away, would be what I would say there. And we rearranged our system. I used to be, checks because I deal with professional clients and it was all checks. I've absolutely made way for us to receive, obviously e-transfers, Visa, MasterCard, process digital payments, because I wanted to de-risk my business model, because these inspections, there was a time when it would have been odd to say that a $1,500 inspection, there's not enough money in that to waste time going back and forth with follow-up phone calls and you didn't sign this and we didn't get the paperwork done and are you going to pay me? Are you going to pay me now? How about now? I don't have that much time to waste on these smaller inspections. So we totally use technology to streamline our process, but again, also vet our client. If they're serious, they want an inspection, then they can pay for it. And it's not a $10,000 invoice. I'm not trying to take advantage of clients or expose them to undue risk. We also follow through on our commitments. We have a reputation and hundreds of clients that say, yes, we paid them and they showed up, So I know we're going to follow through. No concerns there. It's just, I also want to make sure these clients are respecting our time in the process. And it's worked really well. Do I get a couple of questions from time to time? Yeah, and those clients need to be reassured that we're not scamming them or like these, anything like that, that we're a reputable business and before they send us the retransfer. And I got all the time in the world for that because they don't know us either. So there's no concerns there. There's no disrespect there. But there is a process that says, yes, I understand that you're concerned. No, we've been doing this for years. I hear you, Mrs. Jones. There's lots of scams going on. Here's my direct cell phone number. You can get a hold of me. I answer the phone when you call. We can build the trust, the TQ, the trust quotient between us and the client. And ultimately, it's worked out. It's worked out every time. Lots of communication. I'm just coming on Monday. Okay, Mrs. Jones, I'm in the truck. Google says I'll be there in about half an hour. I'll see you soon. Get there. Hi, Mrs. Jones. Good to see you. So the communication is really the secret sauce to making that whole thing work for both parties, because as we pursue getting paid, it's not an excuse to make other people uncomfortable with their money either. Saying that. So contracts, how do we do contracts? Most of our contract work is done on our quotes. And again, I don't have a formal sign the contract, I Level Up Strategies on this date in this city, and you, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, on behalf of this address for this scope, agree to on these terms of payment and so on. I haven't needed that. I also, do they exist? Yes. Do we have those template contracts? Yes. I'm trying to be genuine with you in that we don't utilize that. I think we have a lot of mechanisms in place to vet our clients up front so that we don't see undue exposure. That's true. Doesn't mean contracts and you need to manage your own risk exposure in your own context. And if you have litigious clients or bureaucracy in place, do a contract. But we have also arranged our quotes to act as a contract. Again, I don't want to scare a client away with a bunch of fine print. I also don't need to make it complicated for us to manage, because if you do contracts, we're also bound to those too. So there's a complexity entanglement for both parties. And I itemized items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever it is. And so it's pretty clear when if I was to use an example of landscaping and, item 3.0, cut the front yard. Item 4.0, cut the grass in the backyard. Item 5.0, prune the shrubs in the front yard. Clean up, bag things, mulch, go away. Well, there's no item that says cut or prune the shrubs in the backyard. There's no item that says that. So, if at the end of the day they're like, hey, you didn't prune the shrubs in the backyard, I go, oh, let's look at our quote. So this is very clearly describing everything that we're going to do. And I see I got shrubs in the front yard, but I don't have shrubs in the backyard. That's not listed, so we didn't include it. If you'd like us to, happy to do that. We'll catch you next time. This is the fee. That just makes it super, super clear. And that's the value and why I do the chronology of my quoting so clearly. Because I used to just go, grass cutting and shrub pruning, all labors and material included, this much money plus tax. Well, the interpretation of all is the issue, and what shrubs and which pruning, and you can get as succinct as pruning of the 4 shrubs in the front yard. So there's no question about the 5th and 6th shrub on the side yard. You in your context need to discern the granularity, but at the end of the day, what I get my clients to do is sign my quote at the bottom, where it says, and I list all my assumptions on my quote too, which is a portion of the contract. This assumes, flexibility due to weather, not including the backyard, pool enclosure excluded. I'll list all my assumptions in this hypothetical landscaping example. So what's included is up top. What's intentionally not included is very clearly outlined in the bottom. Terms of payment. Payment must valid upon receipt of invoice, compounding 2% interest, blah, 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 whatever that is on the bottom. Sign it. We're good to go. I need to also, recognize that, well, if you're doing work, and this is a generic thing. I'm not giving you legal advice. Find your own lawyer on this. But my own experience is if it's less than 20 grand, having had a $20,000 loss, and I described that early in my career, going to court for anything less than 20 grand is almost not worth it, as hard as it is to say. There's a real cost, time, energy, effort, emotional going to court. So, if you're $4,000 into a project and a client goes sideways, client relationship goes sideways, what are you going to do? You're going to go spend $7 grand on lawyers? It's like, it just doesn't, the economics don't make sense. So, just again, we haven't had any issues with, we've gotten particularly good at our communication verbally. We've got particularly good at vetting our client profiles. We very intentionally ask clarifying questions like, is there any issues that you see with this quote? I'm looking for the issues. I don't want to know what they're happy about. I want to know what they're not happy about, because it's the misaligned expectations that create conflict. That conflict will create tension. The tension might be why we don't get paid. So I go out of my way up front so that we don't have hassles at the end in terms of getting paid. The times that I get lazy is the times that I bump into problems. And particularly as we, as our service has grown its complexity and capacity. I mean, I'm billing a couple $100 an hour for our services, and recently even there was a time where I got referred by an engineer we worked with for a long time, for years, doing this sort of inspection work. And I showed up and did the work as we typically do, because that's what we do. And the client was expected to pay the bill because the engineer's not going to cover that. And I went to send them an invoice, and I'm like, what do you mean you're billing out at $215 an hour? I didn't expect to pay that much money for this. And I'm like, well, that's what we've been charging for years. That's our basic hourly rate, for these. And I got a rate sheet and a thing, and this is, I got years worth of client. And I told you, my rates are, my hourly rate is lower than had I contracted it, because I like to make more money than if I'm contracting. And it's like, and there was a sticker shock, and it was because I didn't go out of my way to clarify in the beginning that, hey, who's paying us? I made some assumptions. We were referred to the project, so we were just going to do the work as we did, efficiently, with elegance, and these various units. And we got to the end, and there was sticker shock. And my portion in that is that I didn't clarify. It's unfortunate that there's a breakdown of communication on their end, but I can't control anybody's response to things. It was just, it was an example for me about being diligent, to mind our communication up front and not take things for granted, because that didn't work. If people are getting sticker shock, that means that the communication didn't work for them. And I want to avoid that, because now there's dialogue about getting paid rather than just getting paid. So yes, you can use things like DocuSign to facilitate. And I'm going to encourage you, if you're in trades, I think trades lags behind a little bit in terms of technological sophistication. Don't be afraid of some digital tools. Have a fantastic phone that takes amazing pictures, because that's part of your story. And I'm just going to put a plug in for like the new phones with the awesome cameras. And if you can't take a high-res photo that looks like wow, where you can zoom in detail, if you're using like an iPhone 8 or it's like, upgrade your phone. I don't care if you use Samsung. Otherwise, it's not a question about type of phone. It's about high-res photos to tell the story and to chronologue, especially for the quoting and the chronology of your story and your project and portfolio. Again, de-risking at the end of the business or at the end of the contract is making sure that you have photo logs of everything, especially the stuff that's buried, the things that you can't see anymore. The things that are in the back end, the invisible parts. It's good to just capture that and keep it filed. So if you ever are audited by an inspector or the owner, or what's the question here, you don't got to rip things apart to see because you got pictures or videos or walkthrough. Definitely do that. And then tools like HubDoc and PDF readers, and being able to sign things digitally. We have a paperless office. I have an iPad and pencil. I can sign things if I need to. It's really served us, and it's served the client. It's also de-risked the idea of losing paperwork, because it's typically in an email attachment somewhere. So that's the use of technology. It really, and it is expensive. It adds a fee when you process with Visa or a MasterCard. I think the convenience outweighs that. I have, from time to time, thought about adding or splitting let's say it's a 4% charge that Visa might charge me, or 3.5, whatever the thing is, the fee is. Thought about splitting that with a client. At some point, it's just a cost of business, and I would rather elegant payments, especially if I'm getting paid up front, than nickel and diming over the 1% fee. It's like the value of not having to think about it again is worth the 3.5%. It just is, So if I have to make 3 phone calls and a follow-up email, I've spent $50 of my time and gotten nowhere for that. So again, we only have so much time in a day. Let's make our lives simple and not run around chasing things like that, is my thought anyways. The risk mitigation on services. I'm looking forward to doing a quote with you guys, just because I think that's gonna. It really is a powerful tool when we learn to communicate clearly. It positions us as competent professionals, women and men that understand our business, understand the client's needs, I think that'll be a big part here. And then getting paid. Okay, so if there's any conflicts in getting paid, obviously we have the channels of litigation. I did say that anything short of $20,000 in my experience is just even if you do litigate, it's hard to say you won anything. It felt like it cost as much as was recovered. Having a good client relationship is super important, and making sure your finances are in order as a business. And this is something I had to learn early on. I always paid my bills on time. That was something that was just in me. A client, I got a Sunbelt Rentals invoice. It comes in, I pay it. I don't drag it out. I don't risk my accounts being at their limits. I pay my credit card off early. I have credit cards with high limits. I've sorted my finances out in 2 ways. I have a personal credit card and a business credit card, and they don't mix. And if I buy something on business, it's on business. And that way, as a business, I only have to pay the one MasterCard at the end of the month. That and all my internet accounts are all on that MasterCard. So it kind of consolidates things from a bookkeeping standpoint, so that the money flows and it's easily trackable. And if I'm ever audited by the government, it's also, everything is compartmentalized. Then I have my personal credit card that's completely separate. So when I'm going out for lunch, is it business or personal? It's easy for me to discern and keep my books in alignment. You do not want to have this cross thing where everything's getting pulled off of the same statement. It's a lot of hassle for you. I've seen so many people struggle at the end of the month with receipts, with paper receipts, trying to get a handle on what went where. And it creates heartache for them, heartache for their bookkeeper, and then it brings doubt into the year-end finances. Is this an accurate representation of what real expenses are? Should never be the question your accountant's asking you. It just isn't. It's not worth it. If you keep your finances in order, you pay your taxes, you set your taxes aside, the economics of your business stay viable it's just super important to have clean books. If you ever need to have banks look at your business for loans or lines of credit or things like that, because it's just, I use my line of credit all the time because I'm often spending tens of thousands of dollars up front to get paid later on, and it's just part of keeping the cash flow on it. So it's just super thankful that we have good relationships with our financial institutions. We pay our bills, and it's a kind of a habit. I'm the last one to get paid in my business. That's just how that works. And sometimes, I'm in the red. My business is looked after. My clients are looked after. My staff's all looked after, and it's like that's just part of it. And part of our journey as entrepreneurs, building deep roots in our business, is being okay to hold that tension, and not in our discomfort outsourcing and assigning that to other people. I don't want to be uncomfortable, so I'm going to let you be uncomfortable by not paying you. Don't do that. I don't think there's any virtue earned or gained in that process, and it will just apply tension to the relationships that you depend on for the success of your business. And that integrity is just so important for all of us, because we're going to build great businesses. And if you're building depth, if you're at all interested in like the depth and complexity of a meaningful, substantial business, this has to be included. You can't say I care about people and planet and my role here and my purpose at this time and what is the pulse of my organization and what is this calling to be, so that I can stand as a champion for the potential that is right here, and then neglect your responsibilities to take care of people and the finances, if that's your department. That's a big part of it. So this has been good. Okay, there's more to discover in later conversations, and thanks for sticking with me in this. Again, I'm looking forward to seeing how this dialogue evolves. If you have any questions, we're going to sort out how you guys can get in touch with me, and we can go from there. Have a great day.